These groups want to destroy Israel and want to destroy man's freedom and the big Satan of America. They want to destroy those. They will work with anyone side by side. Don't let other people come in and call you a bigot. There is a group of people that think they know better than you and are trying to destroy that free will. They're not enemies of mine or yours, they're enemies of God.
Your new book, Chasing Embers, is number one, frightening, number two, eye-opening, and Glenn, it is so true to life for the times we're living in right now. A corporation basically assuming total government control. Tell us a bit more about the book and how did current events inspire the writing of it?
So it is actually something that came to me about 20 years ago, and I've been wanting to tell it, and I've got somebody who works with me now at Mercury, and she's just this great 20-something, so it's an intergenerational kind of tale. It's a dystopian tale set 50, 70 years in the future, and it all revolves around teenagers, many of whom remember their parents or their grandparents being taken when everyone was forced to live in these, in the real world, we'd call them 15-minute cities, but it's utopia. And, you know, when man tries to do utopia, especially without God, it never works. And so it's this very dystopian thing where truth has been lost. History has been lost. There is no United States. The corporation runs everything now, and it's very, very benevolent. Everything's falling apart, and they're hunting these people who are the rebels outside of the cities that have been there for a long time, and they're doing something very, very wrong. What they're trying to do is, you find out in the book, trying to put together a library because all books had been banned and burned, and these people had been trying to write down history that they remembered. And trying to smuggle it out and have a repository of truth. The kids now are the ones that are left, and some of them believe the stories, most of them don't, and they are put to help hunt down these rebels, and they have to choose: do I actually search for truth? Is truth worth dying for, fighting for? It's these kids going through this journey as 17 and 18-year-old kids that have completely lost the truth, and they don't believe in truth unless the corporation tells us. So it's all kind of set with the World Economic Forum kind of plan and Agenda 2030, et cetera, and just set in the future. And I've written it in such a way. We did a lot of study with the Bartons, Tim and David Barton, and we brought kids in, teenagers, and we told them stories of history to see which ones connected them and where the on-ramp should be, because this is really a book that is just trying to get your kids interested in history and interested in finding what the truth is. And one of the stories we tell in it is the Raoul Wallenberg story, who's one of my heroes. Most Americans don't know who he is, but a true hero that saved probably 100,000 Jews during World War II. He lost his life for it. And when we were doing these sessions with the Bartons, an interesting thing happened. As we told them the story of Wallenberg, the study group almost broke in half, and half of the kids said he's actually a bad guy because he had to lie to save things. The other half thought he was just this amazing hero. And so we tried to learn from them so we could speak their language and put these breadcrumbs so they find Tyndale, they find Wallenberg, they find God, they find American history on their own after reading the book.
Yeah, Glenn, two things. Number one, in terms of generating interest from teens, my 13-year-old daughter saw the book Chasing Embers on my desk. She picked it up and said, "Dad, this looks and sounds really good. I'm going to read it." So that's number one.
Great.
And number two, you talk about 17, 18-year-olds in the book, history being erased. Man, this seems so similar to what, say, Generation Z, Generation Alpha are going through right now. And looking throughout history,
It
look,
is.
Marxism, socialism, this is the goal. Erase history and start anew with something terrifying.
Look what's happening right now, just in the media. You can watch it in real time. The media they were the ones who called Kamala Harris the border czar. The president was there. They defined it all. We watched it on TV. And now that she's the presidential candidate, they can't tie her to the border. And it is an all-out assault on history. They are decrying things that they printed themselves and are now retracting and just making those things disappear in the history books and in the archives. It's really insidious. And if we don't stand up for truth and understand, when Trump said fight, he's not talking about get your guns, let's go fight. He's saying stand up for the truth. Stand up for at least the eternal truths that we know. All men are created equal, endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We have to take responsibility for what we know, what we believe, and don't let other people come in and call you a bigot. There is a group of people that think they know better than you and are trying to destroy that free will. They're not enemies of mine or yours. They're enemies of God. He will deal with them. We just have to do the right thing and stand up and be a banner, a beacon of light and truth as we understand it.
Number one, that social credit system in China. Can you break that down a bit more for people who may not know how sinister that is and how imminent it may be here in the West? Hey, and secondly, you mentioned the role of technology. I think of AI, of course, and its role in the Great Reset. Glenn, what about a digital currency? I mean, a cashless society. How hard are the elites, the Great Resetters, pushing for that? And is that an actual possibility right here in the United States?
Yes. Donald Trump says he will not let one pass. But the Federal Reserve has already rolled a test model out in the Boston Fed. It's called the Hamilton, and it is a digital currency, digital, so you don't own it. And it's not like Bitcoin. Bitcoin, its strength is it's anonymous and nobody can really take it from you, and you can't break up the chain to go get it or change anything. This one is the Fed issued currency that they have complete control over. This is an actual philosophy I wrote down in, it might have been The Great Reset, where I really went into it, but I went the book before that, Arguing with Socialists. I almost left it out of the book because I thought no one would ever really seriously do this. There's been things that have been floated in financial universities where they're teaching monetary policy. And they've come up with this new monetary system. It sounds a lot like Zimbabwe or Weimar, but this one's entirely new. We can print as much money. We don't even have to have the money to pay the debt off. As long as we can get down to the minute level and control where the money is spent, thus digital currency. This money can expire. They can say, hey, they do a stimulus package. So your currency, you have to spend half of what you have in the bank today. If you don't, tomorrow it's gone anyway. So buy. Hey, we're having a problem with shortages on, let's say, gasoline. Well, we're going to shut down your digital currency at any fueling station unless, see if you've heard this before, you're an essential employee. It is a horrifying, it is the mark of the beast. Honestly, it's the mark of the beast.
It's pure evil.
At least it's the technology that resembles the mark of the beast.
Yes.
And we cannot allow that to happen. All rights are gone. The social credit system in China, they have cameras everywhere. You jaywalk across the street, you'll find that you can no longer ride the train to work. You have to take a bus. You do it twice, you don't get to take a bus. You do it 3 times, you don't have a job, and your kids aren't going to the school that you want them to go to. It's complete control of a society.
Yeah. when the Antichrist comes, and you just mentioned, Glenn, that beast system, it's there for him. When the AC comes, it's all there for him. He's got the entire apparatus at his fingertips when that moment does come with the technology we have right now. Hey, when we talk about the Great Reset.
Wait,
Sure.
hang on just a second, Eric. You say that. Look at the rise of Satanism.
Yeah.
My mother used to say, you can't listen to that group because, Knights in Satan's service, whatever. But that, even if that were true, it was the way outlier. Yeah. Everything that is being preached that you don't have the right to tell your kid whatever and raise your own children, that men can be women, women can be men. All of this is Antichrist teaching. And on top of it, look at how many people are openly worshiping Satan.
Yeah. At this point in history, and I think we've crossed a prophetic threshold. And Glenn, one part of that, COVID. We're talking about the Great Reset. How was COVID a major threshold that was crossed in a bad way in terms of advancing that Great Reset agenda? The elites took advantage of that crisis and they ran with it.
So it allowed them to destroy our economies. It allowed them to put millions of business people out of business. Remember, you will own nothing. It allowed the corporations to get stronger because they were on the side of the government. So the government allowed them to be open, but your True Value hardware store, locally owned and operated, that's a house of death. And they trained people to make science and the government their God. And there was nothing godly about this. We've never really exposed all of the stuff. I mean, I've done it. I know you've done it. But as a government, we've never cleaned out that hornet's nest. They wanted vaccine passports. So in other words, if you don't have the vaccine, you're not going to buy, sell, board a bus, have a car, drive anywhere. You need a passport. Let me explain it this way in 2 words that might ring a bell. Papers, please. That's what that is.
Where does Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, this administration, the Democrat ticket, where do they stand when it comes to the Great Reset agenda, and have they helped to advance it over the past 4 years?
Oh, yeah. This is honestly why Donald Trump is hated by the left. It's not because he says crazy things or tweets crazy things. It's because he believes America must take care of America first. That's not acceptable in the New World Order. America is just another country, and you align yourself with the global principles. And, like the World Health Organization, they almost were successful in getting control of our country. If they decide that there is an emergency, can be anything, they could take control of our country and start issuing orders for our National Guard and our military and our medical. Thank God that didn't pass. Joe Biden was for it. Joe Biden has been they say he's the most consequential president in our lifetime. Yeah.
For all the wrong reasons.
Consequences. All the wrong reasons. Yeah. He has brought us to the brink to where, play this out, Eric, with me. Just saw a poll today, 69% of the people don't believe that the election is going to be on the up and up. That's a problem in and of itself. Yeah. 20% of those in swing states have received 2 ballots or more in the mail already, okay? So you have all these extra ballots floating around. What could possibly go wrong? Now, let's just say it's close. Donald Trump believes he won. They say they won. How do you solve that? At the same time, if Donald Trump wins, you have the left coming out and saying, the Hamas people coming out and saying he's got to be stopped. This is so ripe for a complete collapse of the system and civil war. I don't want that. I highly recommend against that. Anybody who says, let's go fight. You have no idea. Look at Haiti. You have no idea what civil war is like. And this one's different than the last one.
Great point, Glenn. I know you got to run in a minute, but I did want to ask you before you go. Number one, I'm going to ask you about thoughts in terms of a potential revival, a great awakening here in America. But I also want to ask you real quick, this unholy, unlikely, on the surface at least, alliance, you've been talking about it for years before anyone else. Again, you were ahead of the curve on this, between radical Islamists and the radical left. We see that now getting more and more pronounced on college campuses in cities across the country. Could you talk more about that strange alliance and why it's something we really need to be watching, as you said, at this tumultuous time, not only here in the United States, but in Western Europe, Glenn, where the radical left is now winning elections in France and Great Britain with the full-throated support of radical Islamists who support Hamas?
Take your kids, if you can afford it, to Europe. Let them see Europe, because Europe will not be like that in 10 years. Much of it may be erased, on fire, destroyed. This is something I said in 2008 or early 2009. Radicals, anarchists, Islamists, socialists, communists will all work together to first upset the Middle East and turn that upside down. Then they will move to Europe, and it will cascade into the United States. Their goal is to destroy, destroy, destroy. Everybody, you know, Eric, everybody said that'll never happen. Glenn Beck is insane. Yep. I said, it's not insane if you just understand that these groups want to destroy Israel and want to destroy man's freedom and the big Satan of America. They want to destroy those. They will work with anyone side by side.
Yes, it's that shared hostility of Judeo-Christian Western civilization, of the foundations of our civilization, of Bible believers, Jews, Christians, strange bedfellows, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You've been ahead of the curve on that, Glenn.
May I say?
Sure.
May I say on this one, Eric? That's why, please, I beg you. I don't care what religion you are. I don't. I love everyone that loves the Lord. And we have so much in common. The Lord's going to work all of this out, later. We might be able to work all of this out later. But right now, your existence, my existence, your church, my church, their church, the Jews, we are all under attack. If you believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, put your differences aside just for a little while. Come together with people who understand the Judeo-Christian values and will stand and live like the Savior lived. That might mean we have to be martyrs. I don't know. It might mean that we have to do things that are peaceful and don't make sense to us, but that's the Lord telling you how to win. He needs all of us together. Please bury the hatchet with anyone that you could possibly link your hands and arms with, because darkness has already done it.
Stakelbeck Tonight, my all-new nightly series on current events through a bold biblical lens. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching, and God bless.